Hi folks, welcome to the Restoration Couple. In today's video I'm going to show you how we finally got some heating up here in the loft and also in the new porch with our new electric radiators. So stick around and I'll show you how we did it. So the radiators we're going to be installing are from Ecostrad. Now they supplied these as a gift as part of this video, so a big thank you to them. Now what we're going to be doing first of all is just hanging them all in place before we can get them all wired up. So we've got two up here and one down in the porch. The porch one is a vertical radiator, whereas these are identical for the two rooms up here in the loft. Got all of our bits here. We've got 4 brackets and the little plastic spacey jobbies. So when the radiators arrived, the heating elements came separately. They are sized for the radiator. So that's what the element looks like. They're made by Terma, and they also have a Bluetooth function on them, so you can control them from an app. Okay, so on here it says the heating element is going in here, essentially the bottom of the radiator. I don't see any reason why you couldn't fit it the other side if that's where your wiring was, but you might want to check that. But all we need to do is take off the plug and just putting some PTFE on to seal that joint. Okay, so that's ready to go in, so carefully put it in. It's just displacing a little bit too much of the fluid inside, so we need to remove a little bit of that. So I have poured a tiny bit out, but actually all you need to do is just tilt the radiator back a tiny bit, because there's a slightly less fluid. It's not actually full to the brim. And there is actually a little rubber gasket on there as well, which needs to get all the way tight. Okay, it's got our flex on there ready, so it's good. Basically these radiators need to be hardwired into a fuse spur. Second fix in this room's got to go in on Saturday. So what I've done is found the centre of our windowsill and dropped, I've got our laser level up here, so that's going to help us find the centre point. We're going to measure out and find our brackets. Right, I've just lifted it up in place to sit it where I want on the wall, put a little dasher, that's going to be the top of the radiator, so now we can work from there. And at that point, I know there's a stud beyond here. There's a bit of insulation between the plasterboard and the stud work, but I can get a nice long fixing through to there. This end doesn't have that, but this plasterboard is very well secured over a short distance, so I'm going to use a toggle fixing there, and on this size radiator that should be fine. So I've worked out where I want the brackets to fit, because obviously they have to sit in between the columns, and then I've translated that across to here and measured across from the center point so we're even, bit like you would on a conventional radiator. So I can get those fixed in, and then we'll drop a line down from there and fit the bottom pair perfectly plumb with those, and then that should get everything nice and secure on the wall, because what you don't want is it hanging on just the top or sitting on just the bottom. You want to kind of want it all evenly spread. All right, with our fixings finally in place, I've left these ones a little bit loose because I want to make sure they're just right before I tighten them up. Now in the instructions it says to use one fixing in each bracket, but as you've got two holes, it makes sense where possible to use all the holes you can. So I've got it hung on the brackets, and I know it's nice and level across the top. What I'm doing now is just making sure it's sat on all the brackets. It feels pretty solid. The bottom one, there's actually a millimetre gap, so the bottom one can come up a little bit. Now the last thing I want to do is where our cable was going to come up into this fuse spur, I intentionally got one of these fuse spurs that allows a cable entry underneath, but they're not the prettiest, and what I want to do is use stainless steel plates where possible to match all the rest of the sockets in the room. So I'm actually going to do away with this chunky socket switch here, put a normal one on, and I'm going to take my cable straight out through the back and then come into it behind. That way we haven't got any cables that look ugly. You can get a little trim piece with these radiators which sits behind there, and I know that all of our cabling's up here because it's visible from the other side, so I'm in a safe place to drill here. Well, the radiators are all in now. We've got one in here, which is the guest room on the top floor, one over in the office room, which is where my desk is, and you also saw that double vertical radiator. That went into the porch. So people will wonder why we chose electric. There's a few reasons really. One is for the porch, you have to be off the main heating system of the house for it to be a porch, a bit like a conservatory. You can't have that on the same heating system as the house. I'm not sure just a TRV counts towards that, so you probably have to have another programmer and a motorized valve, I guess, if you were going to plug it into the main system. But either way, it was a really simple way to heat that space. And then up here in the loft rooms, one of the main reasons we went for electric is it's so simple, and we were in the process of getting some sockets put in anyway, so adding a fuse spur just to the same ring was a really simple way to go. More than that, bringing pipework up in this house would have been quite a lot more work. Yes, the radiator might have been cheaper if we just bought a standard central heating radiator, but the issue would have been the way we've got our house set up is we've got the ground floor, because we're home all the time, or most of the time, the ground floor is on its own heating circuit, I guess. So it's got its own timer, own thermostat. Then we split that with motorized valves, so our our main bedroom floor, our first floor of the house, is on a separate system. So that can basically just open up in the morning and in the evening. That way we wouldn't have the bedrooms coming on and off during the day. So if we wanted the top floor, where quite often I'm working in the office, if I wanted that radiator, if I had a radiator in there, I would have to tie it in with the ground floor. So it's not just a case of tapping into the plumbing just below. Now we've had these radiators in for around 2 weeks now, so I can give you a little bit of feedback. These ones I probably undersized, and it was slightly intentional because I know how well insulated these rooms are and they really don't take much because they're at the top of the house. A lot of the heat is already up here, so they're kind of top up, I would guess. These are 1,000 watt radiators. The recommended one was, I think, the 1200 for this size room. But even so, it's a nice steady heat. When we've had Joe's folks up here, they were staying, it probably, I think it was about an hour or so before they came. You know, I turned an hour on an hour before bed, and I set that up on the app. That will work quite well. And if you were going to use it regularly, then you would just use it on the schedule, and you can set a whole timer system up like that. I've got guest room turned off at the moment. I think we just need to ramp this up and it'll turn on. So it's on the radiator setting. So at the moment, it's just telling you that the radiator's sat at 16 degrees, and it's going to want to achieve 37. And if I take this all the way to the top to 60 degrees, then over there, it's now got all the lights on. I think you can change this to the room. There we go. So 14 degrees in here because it's just been shut up. No one's been up here. And you can set this to come on and off. I'm yet to play with this too much, but you know, here you can set in your heating schedules, and then statistics. That's where you can put in your price per unit, and it will kind of give you an update on how much it's costing. And there we go. So you can see the office and the porch are out of range at the moment because it's only Bluetooth, but if I wanted to, then I could go down there, and if I changed the schedule I wanted on them, I think I can then send it to the device. So what I would say is these radiators are designed more for staying on for a little while. So you would, like I said, you'd have it come on, you know, half an hour before you woke up or an hour before you went to bed, that type of thing, a bit more like central heating. If you're just looking for a radiator to stick in the corner of a room to just flick on when it's cold, you're probably not going to be going this route. You're going to be looking at a fan heater or something like that. That's not really the idea. This is meant to behave just like a central heating type radiator. One other question which I'll try and predict because it's bound to be asked is, why didn't I just buy a couple of elements like this, could be the same one, and stick them into conventional radiators? Now that's a valid question because you could do that, and in some radiators that might work. In a tower radiator where you want electric heat during the summer when your central heating's off, that might work. They're quite big tubes and you can get the element vertical in there as well. Or if you're using a dual fuel, if you want it to be on electric and central heating. In a conventional horizontal radiator, it just wouldn't work because the actual capillaries in the radiator is so small that, you know, if you're trying to pump central heating system, that's fine because it's forcing it around the whole radiator. If you're relying on basically just circulation of heat within the fluid, I'm not sure it would get around that efficiently. So it's a lot more even than you would have if you were trying to rig it into a standard radiator. I mean, the nearest thing you could get is if you were trying to put it into a column radiator, an old style column radiator. That might be a bit more open and work, but there's, especially if there's a cast iron one, there's quite a bit of metal there to heat, and it would probably take quite a bit longer to heat up. This is also filled with some sort of heating fluid, so rather than just a water filled radiator, it's got a glycerol, or I'll put the name here because it's some sort of it's a little bit more oily, and it's going to help hold the heat a bit better and help it spread a bit better. Before I go, I want to say a huge thank you both to Ecostrad, who have supplied these radiators for the video. We were just about to order them for ourselves, and then when we got in touch with them, we arranged to do this video. So they have been gifted to us, so that's our little disclaimer. But as a thank you, they've also given a discount code you can use to head over to their website. But this is not a paid video in any way, so I'm only telling you as I see it, and we'll give an honest review as we move forwards. Also, a huge thank you to our new electricians. We finally found some electricians that are doing what we want when we want it, and at a standard that we want. And believe it or not, that's been harder to find than we thought. So a huge thank you to them. Andy's email, website, whatever, I will stick down below. And thank you to Ben, who's the guy who came on the 2 Saturdays. He came, he's wired up the porch and finished all the second fix up here. And I'll be kind of touching on that in another video because we've almost finished up here as well in the loft. So a huge thank you to them. But that is it. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time. Oh, I should have sat over here for the video. That's quite nice. Right, better go and do some work.